Hey, this is Gatorex, and it's February 1st, so that means we're going to be getting some Pokemon news, right? Well, maybe. Definitely there are some trends to talk about, and I kind of sort of did talk about it a bit a while ago, but let's just go over some of the more recent information, if at all, that we've gotten. I do want to remind you that I am starting my podcast. It's starting today, actually, up on Gatorex Plays. I'll talk more about that later, link it in the description. But for now, what I want to talk about is obviously the Pokemon game happening in 2019, and I'm dumb for not moving that down there. So this is a tweet that was from last year. You know, this happened during the press conference that Game Freak had, when they were, where they announced Pokemon Quest, Pokemon Let's Go at the same time, and of course they said, oh yes, also there's going to be a new Pokemon game in the second half of 2019. Now, what's interesting, a while ago they said, oh yeah, it's going to be 2019. And then they said second half of 2019, something like that. And then with the recent information, the Nintendo stuff that we talked about yesterday, how Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee had reached 10 million units, they also reaffirmed some release dates for various games. The release date for Pokemon 2019 remained unchanged. It's still the second half of 2019. Which is obviously most likely going to be November. I think we discussed it a little bit a while ago, how that seems to be the trend nowadays. And basically I put into, I summed it up in that I feel like January, February of this year, which obviously it's February now, very likely we might get some sort of acknowledgement of a Pokemon game. Back then we were talking about the potential of a Pokemon Direct, or not necessarily a Pokemon Direct, but a Nintendo Direct happening, and come January it didn't happen. What was real interesting though is during the first week, or first 2 weeks of January actually, Nintendo was just posting a bunch of new trailers for various games, updates or trailers for games that are announced for the Switch. And then later in January they had sort of an indie game showcase of various trailers that were going to be coming for games that were going to be coming out for the Nintendo Switch, or games that did come out. So no Direct, but we did get a bunch of trailers, which is pretty typical or so of January, at least, because with the beginning of the year you got to get your you got to announce all the stuff that's going to be happening for the rest of the year. Now in February, whether we'll be getting a Direct, who knows? I think it's potential. It could happen. But, I did mention one thing about February itself, is that history of Pokemon. And, we saw this 3 years ago, back in 2016, where they were kind of making a big deal of it, which obviously it was, where we got all this stuff for the Pokemon 20th anniversary, lots of merchandise. Obviously Sun and Moon was going to be coming out later that year. We did get Pokemon Go coming out that year. Like I said, a lot of merchandise. And what's great too is there was a Pokemon Super Bowl commercial that year as well, which, hey, the Super Bowl's this weekend. Obviously there's not going to be a Super Bowl thing. What's interesting though is last week or 2 weeks ago we talked about that Detective Pikachu TV spot. Who knows whether they'll be showing that during the Super Bowl. Like, the Super Bowl is really expensive to run ads on, so who knows. But I'll definitely be keeping an eye out. I got that day off because Super Bowl, I'll be watching that, cheering for the Rams. Don't say anything at all. I know nothing about football, just that they're from there. But point is, we could potentially get a new trailer. Now, the way the Super Bowl works sometimes is, typically what's been happening recently is that any trailers are posted like the week before, basically, or a few days before the Super Bowl, and then you get to see them on TV. Like, they're posted online first. But, a few times what could happen is that, they happen during the Super Bowl, and then the trailer will be like uploaded like simultaneously online. So I'll definitely be keeping an eye out. We're not going to be getting a trailer for any Pokemon games, obviously, but for Detective Pikachu, potentially. Now, Detective Pikachu, of course, is something that's happening this year. And, like I kind of mentioned, that we're getting those two Pokemon movies. We're getting the Hollywood one, live-action one, and then we're getting a pretty important, or a pretty good-looking anime one that's happening later this year. And so that just goes into building the hype for Pokemon. So again, with February coming up, anniversary of Pokemon, let's say there is a Nintendo Direct or something, and then, you know, you could have all your info for that, but I could almost potentially even see something like a Pokemon Direct happening. I don't know if it could be like an all-around Pokemon Direct, which I think would be pretty great to see. In terms of all-around, obviously, they're not going to be talking about the Detective Pikachu movie, but honestly, I think they could, because, you know, mostly the Directs are about the games, and typically, I don't know if we'll be getting, like, any Pokemon Go stuff during a Direct, but point is, a Nintendo Direct could definitely happen this month. I'm not going to say it is, I'm not going to make any predictions, but I do think that this beginning of the month, January, February, March, is the time to talk about this, because let's say, you know, the second half of 2019, whether that's November, October, or even December, typically, you know, Pokemon games have been releasing in November, so, you know, November release, and you could get an announcement as early as January, February, and March. X and Y, like I mentioned, we got announced in January, and it released in October, while Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, it was actually announced in, like, May, June, I believe. I think it was June, give or take. And then it released in November. Of course, you know, Let's Go, there's not a whole lot to talk about in terms of hyping it up, I suppose. Because remember, with Pokemon Sun and Moon, right, that was announced in, like, February. We got more details in May. And then, well, yeah, okay, May, June, I guess. But, and then that released in November. Of course, you know, X and Y is kind of the outlier. We got a huge trailer in early January for X and Y, and like I said, you know, there's a lot of details for that, so really who knows what could happen, but I definitely do think we should be keeping an eye out for a few things in particular. For one, you know, not just Pokemon games in general, but Pokemon overall. For one, I'm going to be keeping an eye on the Super Bowl, could be getting more Detective Pikachu stuff, and with the Detective Pikachu movie, it is possible that a lot of it could potentially tie into the new games. You know, some speculation. I've seen it here and there that maybe, oh, maybe they'll put like a Generation 8 Pokemon in the Detective Pikachu movie, which, I mean, I think that could work. And even in the Mewtwo movie coming out, they could put like a Generation 8 Pokemon in there to continue building hype for Generation 8 that's going to come out later this year, because, you know, that's something that they tend to do, put like a Pokemon, put it in something that comes out before its generation is actually released to kind of build hype for it or to bring awareness to it. I don't know if that'll happen. Like, obviously they're not going to throw a new Pokemon into a Detective Pikachu movie trailer. Maybe in the actual movie, maybe just like in the background. Probably won't be like a main focus or anything. But with the rest of February coming up, and again, the Pokemon anniversary, which is February 26th, I believe it is. I don't have the exact day written down, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Pokemon, I forgot our anniversary, but point is, definitely we should be keeping an eye out. Again, that's the thing about like the in-between portion of time between Pokemon games. Like, specifically January through March, because if we don't get anything, and, you know, again, like last year with after Ultra Sun and Moon, January up until May, we didn't have anything in terms of news for Pokemon. Again, you know, just some discussion about this and that, but Let's Go obviously happened. And what's interesting though is this year I'm not seeing a whole lot of fake leaks, or at least a whole lot of fake leaks buzzing around or anything, or rumors or anything, because people decide to start calling them rumors now. But point is, should be keeping an eye out. I don't think anything's gonna leak specifically for Generation 8, so just be aware of that. But I don't know, like that's the whole thing with Pokemon. But anyway, let me know what you think down in the comments below. Do you think that we'll be getting something coming up later this month in terms of some news? What specifically would you like to see? Because I'm also going to be putting together a video, which maybe it'll probably even be up tomorrow, about Generation 8 wishlist. I might even do like a little thing of the where I want, or what I want next series, where I just kind of make up a story basically of what I want to see in the next Pokemon games, whether it be, you know, Generation 8, you know, a new generation, or whether it be like Diamond and Pearl remakes, which obviously we're not getting this year, but it might be fun to speculate. So let me know what you'd like to see in those videos specifically, specifically with the Generation 8 wish list, which should be coming out soon. Again, I do want to remind you that the GatorX podcast is launching today today, actually. It's going to be on GatorX Plays, which is actually getting the Season 2. We got a Smash Bros. Video up there as well. There's going to be a lot more. With the podcast, it's kind of been a month and a half in the making, at least in terms of planning and setting things up. Obviously, it's still not perfected and everything, but I've got a system that works. It's going to be every 2 weeks. So, going to get an episode today, February 1st. Going to get an episode February 15th next. So, if you could check that out, that'd be great. Anyway, if you enjoyed the content, remember to leave a like and subscribe to show your support. You can enable notifications by clicking the bell icon next to the subscribe button. This will make sure you see each new video as it comes out, and will make you a member of the Changling Squad. Anyway, this has been GatorX. Have a good day. Happy February 2019. Let's get excited for Pokemon, man.